Hello, my name is Horan from Planet Youth, and I'm joined by Gina Dowd, adolescent psychotherapist, who also has been working with Planet Youth over the last number of months, delivering support events, online sessions for parents in Mayo, Roscommon and Galway. And last night, Gina, we had a large crowd in again of parents of pre-adolescent teens, typically those who are in fifth class, sixth class, perhaps looking to transition into first year, and all the challenges associated with that age. And once again, Gina, we had a very stimulating discussion and lots of interesting points coming up from parents.
We did, Liam, and again, it's parents trying to manage during what is a very difficult time with that word COVID-19, but it was also parents acknowledging that transition and change are happening for their adolescents, and what is the best way to support this process and this ongoing process. And we had a group of parents who were very interested in understanding what their adolescent is about, what stage of development they're at, and what they need to be doing as parents to really support these wonderful human beings in their house. And we heard a lot about conversations slowing down, and a lot of questions came in overnight that relate to all these themes and questions. And I guess that's what I'd like to share today with the parents in understanding adolescent development as a whole, really, between that early pre-teens.
Yes, and we have the questions here, and we're going to ask them all as one, because I think you believe that they blend in and out of each other, and a lot of the similar themes will cover the questions, although the questions have different focus. Parenting following a breakup, age-appropriate advice on how to support and what to say. My daughter missed out on the RSE talk. Any tips on what to begin saying? Tips around screen time, that's a regular question we get. Early adolescent development, what to expect, and understanding brain function, and communication tips for communicating with adolescents. And as I said, you feel all of those come together in a broad sense, Gina. These are the common issues parents of children at this age feel.
They are, Liam, and while we go through this today, I would also ask parents to look back over the previous videos, because a lot has gone into them about adolescent development in its various formats. So there will be something for every parent. But what seemed to come up last night is what to expect from my developing adolescent. And I always feel it's helpful to understand what's going on in brain development. We all know our brains look the same, but there's 3 parts to pay attention to when you have an adolescent. And the front part of the brain, this part here, is known as our prefrontal cortex. And often we need to think of it like a laptop or a computer where we input information. And what we hope is when we put in that information, that it flows around the brain and that we have age-appropriate behavior that happens. But what we know is that this often gets hijacked. And parents often say, but I find myself repeating myself. My adolescent doesn't seem to be listening. You know, how do, you know, I've put in punishment, I've put in X, Y, and Z. So why is it not working? And the reason that adolescents sometimes are not able to listen is because their brain is often just coming online. So it's not fully online. It's like you want them to become the chief executive officer of the company. But we know the CEO only gets there with a lot of experience and a lot of support. And as a parent, it's very interesting to know how you can do that. So if you think of this little part here called the hippocampus, it's like a filing cabinet, and it creates all new memories. But often it gets hijacked by this little structure called the amygdala, and they're like a bunch of almonds. And if you think of them, that they're like a fire alarm. So when we panic and stress, it's like a fire alarm going off in our brain. And what happens to the adolescent is you input the information into the laptop, but instead of it going to the filing cabinet for, oh, this is how you do it, it gets hijacked by this fire alarm, the amygdala, and the adolescent ends up down in the basement. Now we never make films, especially the American films, of what happens in the basement. It's dark, it's dingy, you know, it's hard to get out. So when your adolescent is in that place, it's recognizing, okay, they're in the basement. How do I start to bring them upstairs? And in the second slide, what I've named it is what we name and what we tame. And often we need to think of our amygdalated brain and what we're panicking about. So adolescents need help in naming their worries, in naming their wonder, their curiosity, their concerns. And what we often have to tame as parents is our fear and panic that they're not going to make it, what's going to happen when they get into secondary school, the projections we put on them, maybe the comparisons. What we know about adolescence, it's synonymous with shame. And what I heard last night from parents was that lovely word, guilt. Being a parent is synonymous with guilt. Being an adolescent is synonymous with shame. So these two don't make good partners. When guilt and shame meet, we tend to make decisions out of projections, out of fear and panic. So if I can begin to tame what's going on in my head as a parent, I become very interested in that third slide there, the business of parenting. And the business of parenting is about, okay, what does my adolescent want? They want to have fun, they want to be spontaneous, they have private thoughts, they have private worries, they have ideas, they have passions. What am I responsible as a parent? Rules, norms, boundaries, putting values into my adolescent, my style of parenting. It's my job to worry about money. It's also my job to begin to look after ourselves. And then we get interested in what is our business. So it's our business to keep everyone safe in the family. It's our business to keep well-being at the forefront of our mind. It's our business to have fun. It's our business to understand what's happening here. And development is a big part of that. It's our business to have a set of values. It's our business to know bad things happen, so we will have fears and concerns. And when we're able to oscillate between those three positions, we understand that adolescents don't come and tell us everything. But it becomes our business to acknowledge and support when I notice that my adolescent isn't doing so well. So then I can create options for them and boundaries that says, okay, we actually have choices here in what we do with this sadness and what we do with this fear. What do you think it is about? And often I will say to parents, and it's often that whole question of the what, the how, and the why. And I have this written in almost all the slides. We need to step back. What is happening right now? Okay, my adolescent is sad. How is this showing up? My adolescent is in their room a lot. My adolescent is crying a lot. Why do I think this is happening? Okay, there was a question there about separation. There's a question there about loss that came up before. So we're going to have a reaction to all these events, and we're going to have feelings. And it's never our job to dismiss feelings, but it's our job to understand the feelings so that we can put the right support, the right thinking on it. Because often we'll hear with adolescents, they're anxious, they're scared, they're worried. And we have so many terms for anxiety today. And of course they are, because they're trying to develop in a world that we as adults have created, and it's quite insane. We introduced the internet, we introduced tablets and screen times, and now we want to take them off them. And so if you move to the next slide there, it's about development. You know, adolescent development, you want them to have faith in themselves, but their job is having fear in themselves. So you're constantly trying to oscillate between these two places. So what is the right thing to do? Communication is always about listening. That's what it is. But we don't tend to do listening very well. And even for someone who's trained in the art of listening, I don't always do it so well. Because I want to get my point of view in, because I think I know better, because I've experienced, because I have wisdom. And if you look back over the years, the art of true listening is what the parents talked about last night. Being present. Being present actually means standing still. And if you can imagine, what you do is you get a pair of bunny ears. And bunnies are highly sensitive and highly attuned. They can hear the movement in the grass. And they don't say anything. They don't even squeak. And as parents, we often need to do that. We need to stop and we need to listen. First of all, to our own brain and what's happening. Am I panicking? And second of all, to what an adolescent is trying to tell you. An adolescent doesn't always have the language to say, I feel. And you know what, Liam, we don't tend to talk like that at home. I wonder how you're doing today. And I feel, you know, that's for the therapy session. So often what we're trying to do is slow down enough. What is this adolescent trying to communicate to me? And usually they want you to feel how they feel. At a loss, confused, worried, concerned. And what is very similar to adults and adolescents is we get future orientated. So how do we support parents? And I suppose, as you know from me now, I'm kind of loath to give tips, but I thought about this overnight and I said, okay, parents are asking for tips here.
And can I, these, Gina, govern some of the questions we've already
yes.
brought up, as in you can apply these tips in that way, can't you? In those cases.
Apply tips to your screen time, to your communication, to your dealing with sadness, to your dealing with anger.
Yes.
Right? When we create boundaries, the biggest thing that happens to us as parents is we fall down in our consistency around our boundaries. So screen time, that's it. There's no screen time on a Tuesday. I know that's the example in my house. And then I get the, please, oh, but I'm bored, oh, and I go, oh, okay, so I break the boundary. So I then create the confusion for the child or for the adolescent. If you have set up something and you want to give it a go, you have to give it at least a few weeks. I have decided that Tuesday is screen-free night. You're going to be cajoled, you're going to be rattled, you're going to be guilted into a lot of things. Know why you're doing it. It's for their safety and well-being. And when I think about screen time, Liam, I'm not going to tell anyone how much they should or they shouldn't do, but the research highlights that less is more with screen time. It should be off an hour before bedtime. Phones should not be in the room. Right now, I am a culprit. I have a phone in my room for an alarm, and that is out of pure laziness. But if that phone is there, will I check it? So I tend to turn it down or I put it on silent because the alarm goes off while the phone is on silent. But you know, when our shops reopen, go into your local Euro store and you'll get an alarm clock for €1. So sometimes we don't always do as we, preach to adolescents, and we have to be aware of that. But less is definitely more, but have a boundary around it. It does impact their development. It does impact anxiety. I don't care how creative it may seem to be online. It's not. It's amygdala. It's setting off a fire alarm. If you want to support your adolescent, build in creativity in the day, tasks, and I mean housework, build in fun, build in the concentration time, especially now when kids are trying to do schoolwork and all that goes with it. It's very important. We need at least an hour's concentration time. And parents have brought in wonderful ideas about the gardening and all that. That is a task, and it's creativity. We don't tend to have time to be anxious when we're being creative, but we have plenty of time to be anxious when we're on with our online friends. And if something is presenting and a dilemma is there, or the day hasn't gone really well, ask yourself, okay, what's happening? My adolescent is cross, I'm not cross. How is this showing up? I shouted twice today. I got thick. Everyone's in their room. Why is it happening? You know what? I'm really worried about my job. You know what? I'm not getting my time with my friends. And then you tend to have an awful lot more tolerance for yourself as a parent and for your adolescent. And when I talk about the brain, and we can get all this stuff online, okay, if you're going to use your tablet time, use it as an education piece. There's an awful lot. Dan Siegel deals with the adolescent brain. There's a lot on trauma and the adolescent brain. Parent from upstairs, you're the CEO. Your executive functioning as an adult is meant to be at the front. Your adolescence is at the back of their brain. When they don't hear you, they actually don't hear you. It's actually proven they don't hear you. Tidy your room. I will in a minute. I will in a minute, right? So there's no point in saying it 3 times. They haven't heard you. So you need to step in front of them. You need to create a reward system. We're never too old for rewards as far as I'm concerned, okay? Maybe not a star chart, but that's when you negotiate the extra tablet time. That's when you negotiate, okay, you're off dishwasher duties this evening. Make it interesting. And when we parent from upstairs, we're less triggered. But recognize when you're in the basement and recognize it's a bad day, I need an extra cup of tea. I had a negotiation with my son this morning about a third cup of coffee. And he said, no, I think now you should take your peppermint, Mom. You know, it's good and refreshing. Yeah, I said, you know what? Now that's for later on. The third cup of coffee is actually a necessity today. And we were able to have a giggle about it, but he obviously recognizes too much coffee doesn't suit me. So listen, listen, listen. Your adolescent has learned all their behaviors from you, and they're the good ones and they're the triggering ones. Pay attention to what's happening in your parenting style. Trust yourself as a parent, and you build up that alliance and that trust then with your adolescent. We can't listen enough to ourselves and to them. It's the key to parenting. We get it wrong, we have a bad day, move on. Tomorrow is another day. The next hour is another part of the day. And then it gets much better and it gets much more interesting. The job of adolescence is to conquer and divide and is to challenge, but it's also to be so creative, to go out in the world with ideas. Like, we love adolescents. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have all these wonderful ideas. We wouldn't have all this energy. They are amazing. But that amazement comes with boundaries, it comes with support, and it comes with understanding. And you're helping them to go out into the world as adults who are good, who are robust, who are resilient. And that's all that we really want for our adolescents in their future lives as adults.
And I think a common point that comes up, and you brought it up there as well, would you agree that parents need to be easy on themselves, to understand that this is a difficult time and not to expect perfection in their parenting?
This is a horrendous time. I mean, parents have shown great creativity in what they've decided to do, be it the gardening, be it the baking. But often, you know, and it comes sometimes with the Irish personality, you know, this fear about praising yourself. And it's very important to acknowledge what you're doing and that you're doing it well and that you're doing it okay. I like the term, you know, good enough parenting. And I don't mean slapdash parenting. I mean, I'm good enough. There was a lovely man, you know, years and years ago, Winnicott, and he always talked about the good enough mother. And he had a lovely way of explaining that. And I think today we'll translate it into the good enough parent. Because whatever you're doing, and we know bad things happen, and we read about it in the paper all the time or on the news, but we don't read enough about how parents are actually doing a good enough job, staying interested, staying focused, staying online. And so the more you build in self-care into your day, whatever that looks like for you, the more resilient you are, the more compassionate you are, the more available you are as a parent, which is a job for life. I can't hear you, Liam.
Yes.
There you are.
Yeah, this is good enough broadcasting. Thank you very much, Gina. And people should watch out for more from Planet Youth in the coming weeks and months as well. So thank you very much, Gina.
Thank you, Liam.